Hello, boys and girls. All right, I need to do like the whole. I've said this before. I got to do the whole Tales from the Crypt series, like down the line, of course. Like just like how I started the Goosebumps TV series, covering those episodes. I did like four and completely forgot about them, but eventually. So just did my top 10 90s horror films, and I wanted to just do, just for the channel here, my top 10 of the 80s. Because me, Mike at The Real Fifth Beetle, Dave at Savage Zombie Reviews, and Alexi at Alexi Gammer. If you don't know these people for some reason, if you're new subscribers, and please go subscribe to every one of those channels. Like, I'll put them in the description, and a link to our stream, which is why I'm doing this separate little video. We did a stream of our top 10 80s horror films about a month ago, 5 weeks ago, something like that. And I missed the stream since I had COVID for the top 90s list, which is why I just did my top 90s list. So I said, screw it, I'll do my 80s list in its own little video here. So I'll say right off the bat, the 80s are my favorite decade for horror. Like 100%. Like no other decade comes close. The 70s, maybe a little, like it's close, but not close enough that it matters, like to me at all. Just everything in the 80s with the horror movies were just, in the horror genre was fantastic. I mean, it could be part of me being a little biased because slasher films are my favorite subgenre of horror, and the 80s, early 80s especially, was just the fucking explosion of slasher movies. And we get so many good ones throughout the 80s. So that's probably one reason why the 80s are so at the top for me of decades. Another reason is practical effects. Like, ever since I saw my favorite movie of all time when I was younger, I didn't see it right when I saw like Halloween, which was 5-6 years old. I think I've even said in the video for it, I think I was like 13 years old, 12, 13 when I saw my favorite movie of all time, which is on this list. That's why I'm avoiding it. Most of you know it already, but practical effects are something I always loved about horror movies, and just seeing how they do it and just trying to figure it out. And just like Tom Savini is an idol of mine. Like I've watched so many interviews of him and documentaries behind the scenes of him explaining his effects work and just how they did it. And that I love how he looks at it as like being a magician, like doing magic tricks but for the camera, and like trying to trick the camera into seeing what's not really there. All of that. So practical effects I adore. So we had a whole bunch of talented special effects people in the 80s. And practical effects were, I think, at their peak and their zenith in the 80s. With the friggin' Baker and Bottin and Savini and like Nicotero, Berger, and Kurtzman. It goes on and on. Stan Winston, like so many amazing practical effects artists and makeup artists. So that combined with slashers being so prominent in the 80s, those are two big reasons the 80s are my favorite genre of horror. My favorite decade, fuck you. My favorite decade of horror. So this is going to be shorter than the 90s one, just because I already did this on the stream. But so some honorable mentions. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch from 1982. This movie was hated by so many fans when it came out. And it's gotten such a huge cult following since, and reappraisal, that I know many people that it's their favorite in the franchise, besides, Carpenter's. And it's the same for me. Like, it's my favorite Halloween sequel. So, Halloween 78, then Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Like, always. The score is so good in this. Carpenter's score. I mean, you got Tom Atkins. Just the whole thing with Colonel Cochran. his performance, I forget the actor's name, but his whole performance, the whole story, and just everything about this movie, I adore. And I've always liked Season of the Witch. Like, I don't remember not liking it at any point. Maybe the first time I saw it and I said, wait, where's Michael Myers? That might have been it. But I love and adore Season of the Witch. Like, and I know more people nowadays who do love Halloween 3 than don't. So there's an honorable mention for you. Pieces, 1983, is another honorable mention. It might be 82. I always get confused with that because it was released in Spain. Whatever. If you haven't seen Pieces and you're a slasher fan, it's on Tubi. It's on like every free streaming service, along with a lot of slashers. The tagline for this movie is "You don't have to go to Texas for a chainsaw massacre." And one of the other taglines are, "It's exactly what you think it is." And that's all you need. It is exactly what you think it is. It is. It's just a killer with a chainsaw killing co-eds on a campus in Boston and taking their parts, their pieces, if you will, for some reason. Excellent slasher / giallo. It's like a Spanish giallo slasher. But man, if you haven't seen Pieces and you're a slasher fan, I don't know what the hell to tell you. Like, it's Pieces. All right, another one, Society by Brian Yuzna, 1989. Absolutely insane movie. I love everything that Brian Yuzna's done, pretty much. He's had an amazing career after like branching out from under Stuart Gordon. And Society, I think, is one of, if not his best films. Like, just for the whole scene at the end, the orgy party scene, like, is so unforgettable and really just like burns into your brain and your eyes when you watch it for the first time. You'll never forget it. So, amazing movie, Society. I keep saying I gotta do a video on that. I keep forgetting. I said this like the first month or two of my channel. I was going to do some Cronenberg and knock out Society, at least by Yuzna. Then just never happened. So they're coming. They're coming one day. One day soon. Another honorable mention, Child's Play from 1988. I just said in my video for my top on the 90s, Child's Play 2 is in that list. It's my favorite in the franchise. But what a fucking masterpiece Child's Play is, the original one. Like, what a classic. It brought us Chucky and Charles Lee Ray. And just Brad Dourif is just infamous for that voice. He's an unreal actor. But just his voice for Chucky, like, is going to be what he's always remembered by. And for good damn reason. Like, he absolutely brought that character to life and has sustained that life of Chucky ever since 1988. And God, just such a great movie and franchise. Another final honorable mention, Cannibal Holocaust, 1980. Some of you don't like that movie. I get it. Some people badmouth and shit all over that movie that have never even seen it. Just because, they kill animals and stuff. Yeah, it was a different time. It was in the fucking late 70s in Italy. Like, it's different times. Shit happens. Like, and I'm sure most of you, 99% of people out there, have killed a spider at one point. Because they kill a spider in the movie too. Then shut the fuck up. Like, really? Like, that's it. Like, I can understand, like, if it was like a cute little puppy dog and it was someone's pet or something, like, you know what I mean? But I still understand why people don't want to see animals being killed on screen. Like, of course. I mean, could they have figured out practical effects for it? Yeah, of course. Especially with how great the actual effects are in this movie. Like, so good that Deodato, rest in peace, he just passed away. Ruggero Deodato, the director, passed away on the 29th, I think, of December, which is a huge loss for the horror community, because say whatever you want about this movie, it friggin' rocked the film industry. Like, it rocked film. It left its mark 100% in a huge way on the horror genre. So, say what you will about it, but Cannibal Holocaust, and while I'm at it, one of the most gorgeous scores to a horror film. Like, amazing. Such a beautiful piece of music. I think it was Rizzo Ortolini, something like that, the composer. So gorgeous. And we hear it at the beginning, at the end of the movie, and at different parts throughout the movie. And it really is amazing at just contrasting between how gorgeous and beautiful the music is, juxtaposed with the content in the movie and how fucked up and just, crazy stuff that happens in that movie. Amazing score. Like, I did a guitar cover of it. You can find it in my guitar playlist. But let's get into the actual list here. Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Freddy's Revenge at number 10. From 1985, I want to say? Yeah, 85. This is my favorite in the franchise. People who follow me long enough know me. They know this. Like, my favorite Freddy, like the most evil looking Freddy and sounding Freddy, most dark Freddy, scary Freddy. It has my favorite practical effect in the whole series, with Freddy bursting out of Jesse's stomach. That whole sequence, absolutely amazing. And this is where the practical effects already start rearing their head. God, it's such a great effect. And my favorite line and shot in the whole franchise, with Freddy by the pool with the flames behind him, and "You are all my children now." Fucking amazing. Like, best practical effect in the series, best Freddy, best can't say final girl, but final boy with Jesse. Jesse's awesome. But Lisa is gorgeous too. Like, she's a cute fucking girl in this movie. So there's so much that I love about this movie. Like, then I said in the last video that been in talks for a few months of getting the director on, Jack Shoulder. So I was told to email him on the 1st, and we will set up a date and time. So hopefully we'll have that soon. But favorite in the franchise. So number 10, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Number 9 comes after 10 in reverse order. Creepshow from 1982. Conveniently, this is right here, as it usually is for some reason. My Creepshow comic book came out right after the movie released. I love this thing. This is like one of my favorite horror memorabilias right here. Gotta love it. Creepshow, man. What can you say about Creepshow? It is my favorite anthology film. Like, without a doubt. Creepshow 2 comes close. Like, Creepshow 2, you could pretty much put Creepshow and Creepshow 2 together on this list. Like, right in the same spot. Even though the first one does get an edge over the second one for me. And then, let's not even talk Creepshow 3. I mean, that came out in like the 2000s. It was terrible. Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, which I said was an honorable mention in my top 90s horror films. That's basically Creepshow 3. Like, the real Creepshow 3. Like, anyone who's a fan of Creepshow and stuff, you know what I'm talking about. Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, that's the real Creepshow 3. Not that bullshit we got in 2003 or 8 or 5 or whatever it was. I don't even think I've seen that movie, like, after the first time. And it was abysmal. And I said, there's no way. But the first Creepshow, man, I mean, you got George Romero directing. You got Tom Savini in here, and he's all over this list. Savini's all over the place. Like, him doing the effects for this movie. And this was like his first foray into, like, puppeteering, too. And how he created Fluffy in the crate. Like, what a fucking amazing puppetry that is. And a design. Like, I love Fluffy. The crate is one of my favorite segments in an anthology film. Absolutely adore it. And just the ensemble cast we have in Creepshow 2 would just... There's nothing that I don't love about this movie. So, Creepshow, 1982, number 9. Number 8, 1982, Dario Argento's Tenebrae. What a fucking giallo, man. Like, what an excellent Italian horror film. Like, anyone who's big on Italian horror, or especially like Argento, I covered all his films last August for Argento August, from his debut with The Bird with the Crystal Plumage until Opera, which I think is his last excellent film. Then he unfortunately, like a lot of directors, kind of went pretty downhill after that. But Tenebrae, man, I mean, you got John Saxon in here too, which he has a great little side role. And just the way Argento was able to just make things look absolutely, like, to make death and killing make look beautiful and disturbing at the same time, is something, a talent that only few have. And for me, it's Argento and David Lynch. Like, that's all I can really think of director wise. Argento has such a knack for that, and just the kill at the end. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but just the way with the white wall and the blood that goes on top of it, and just it looks gorgeous. And the score is amazing in this by Goblin, although they broke up at this point, so they weren't called Goblin, but they were the ex-members of Goblin. Same shit. Sounds just like Goblin, like what all of the other films of Argento's that they scored, and it's fantastic. Like, it's kind of like a synth pop rock sound to it. Like, I don't even know how to describe it, but excellent score, and one of, in my top 3 Argento films, like, for sure. So that's number 6. That's number 8, Tenebrae. Number 7, Reanimator from 1985. Stuart Gordon, Jeffrey Combs, the goddess Barbara Crampton. Like, I think I said in the last video for the top 90s, but yeah, for Castle Freak. Stuart Gordon, Combs, and Crampton, the 3 of them were like the fucking Beatles. Plus, like, minus Ringo. Like, for like all the movies that they worked together on. For this movie, From Beyond, Castle Freak, like, they were on a roll, the 3 of them. And like I said in my 90s video, Jeffrey Combs is another idol of mine, is one of my favorite horror actors of all time. He absolutely destroys the role of Herbert West in this movie. This, to me, is my favorite mad scientist movie. His role is so infamous, so iconic, and Combs has been so influential on so many horror actors ever since this movie. That, I mean, what is there not to love about Reanimator, man? And the practical effects in this, amazing too. And the Barbara Crampton's tits, dude, the most perfect set of tits in a movie in the 80s. I'll say that right now. Fuck Linnea Quigley. Like, great, but I don't know why I was like holding my breast the entire time while talking about that. But, oh, God. Crampton's tits in the end there, and that whole end sequence of when the head's about to give her head, and that's such a brave fucking scene to do, man, for Crampton. Like, being that young back then and doing that scene, I give her so much props. I've said that many times. Reanimator was one of like the first like long videos I did on this channel, like the first week or so. I did like an hour discussion on Reanimator. So absolutely adore Reanimator. I got to do videos soon on Bride of Reanimator and Beyond Reanimator. But don't care for Beyond that much. Bride is excellent. Like, so much fun. So that's number 7, Reanimator. Number 6, we got another Argento film with 1989's Opera. Again, in my top 3 Argento, this might be my favorite Argento. Like, yeah. Like, I love Opera so much. Just the premise for this movie alone is sick. Like, in a good way and a twisted way. Like, for people who haven't seen Opera by Argento, it's on Tubi. I know that, first of all, so fucking watch it. Number 2, the premise is basically this opera singer who is going to make her debut in a production of Macbeth. And the woman who is playing Macbeth, or the lead role. I'm not an opera person. Macbeth is the lead role, right? I guess, whatever. And so she ends up getting hit by a car. The girl who was like originally supposed to be in the production, and our main character gets the gig because of that. And she ends up starting to be stalked and followed by this killer. And he basically ties her up and puts rows of needles under her eyes so that she can't blink, and she has to watch him like murder friends of hers as the movie goes on. So good. Like, the gore is great in this movie, the kills are great, the score is great, like everything. The shot with Daria Nicolodi, Argento's wife at the time, his ex-wife, her killing this movie, man, like, it's filmed so great. What a great camera work and camera tricks and stuff to get that kill. And for those who haven't seen it, go watch it again. You'll know what I'm talking about. But man, he must have loved thinking of ways to kill his wife in every one of those movies in the late 70s and 80s that she was in of his. He must have had a ball doing that. That was like probably his marriage counseling. So, Opera from 1989, Dario Argento, number 6. Number 5, Lucio Fulci's The Beyond, 1981. Another absolute masterpiece. Like, I just did a watch party with Sean from Show Blue Digital, like 2 weeks ago or so, just to watch fucking Fulci again. Like, I've seen The Beyond so many times. The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, House by the Cemetery, not as much with House by the Cemetery, but The Beyond's my favorite Fulci film. It's an absolute masterpiece. City of the Living Dead is right under it, like right under it. But man, if anyone of you watch and aren't big again into Italian horror or haven't seen a Lucio Fulci film, The Beyond, like, absolutely. Unless you're like a big zombie subgenre fan, then of course watch his film Zombie, which is an amazing zombie film. I covered it last month. I think it was for the zombie theme I was doing. Awesome, but he's known as the godfather of gore for a reason, and man, the effects in this movie look so good too. Like, just great stuff. So, The Beyond, Lucio Fulci at number 5. Number 4, coincidentally, it's Friday the 13th 4, the final chapter. Now, this is weird, putting this on here. I don't hold this to as high regards as some of the previous movies on this list. Like, that everything is just masterful, but it's my favorite slasher film of all time. I think it's the greatest slasher ever made, Friday Part 4. So, that's why it's so high up on the list. Just because I'm a slasher guy, slashers are my thing, and this is my favorite slasher ever made. So do I think Friday 4 is a better made film overall than Fulci's The Beyond or Argento's Opera or Reanimator? Or no. But for a slasher film, it's a masterpiece. And just for being my favorite one, it had to be pretty high up on this list. So Friday Part 4, the final chapter from 84. 444. That's funny. All right, so number 3. This and the next one, number 2, you can kind of interchange because they're both masterpieces. But number 3 is George Romero's Day of the Dead. This is my second favorite zombie movie. It's my favorite traditional zombie movie, like Romero-esque zombie or voodoo zombie, because Night of the Living Dead, like some of the younger generation out there, like Romero created the zombie as we know it today with Night of the Living Dead. Like, before Night of the Living Dead, it was all the zombies and the dead rising and stuff in movies were all the result of, like, most of the time, like, voodoo curses or spells and stuff like that, and like science gone wrong and stuff like that. When Romero made Night of the Living Dead, That's when we got the whole get bit by a zombie and you become one, and shoot in the head and destroy the brain is to kill it. We've seen that before, but like really established all the rules of the modern zombie. So just that alone, just for Night of the Living Dead, this guy would have been heralded as just fucking the greatest forever in the zombie subgenre. Then to go on and do Dawn of the Dead, which is so many people's favorite out of the three. I love Dawn. I love Night. Nothing comes close to Day of the Dead for me. Like, not at all. Like, Night is an absolute classic. Dawn is an absolute classic, a little above it for me, and then Day is like up here. Like, that's how much higher up it is for me. And I can see 100% why some people don't like Day or don't rank it as high. It can be slow. It can feel like not much is going on at points and that they're just arguing. But we all know how Romero put so much commentary and social commentary and stuff into his movies, and themes that get explored throughout the whole, your mental health and lack of communication are like huge themes in Day of the Dead. And it just builds so well. It just keeps on building so well. And just the tension between the scientists and Rhodes and his soldiers and Dr. Frankenstein trying to study these zombies. All of that is excellent to me. Like, it might not work for some people. Like I said, it might be boring or slow for them. For me, it works so good. Just seeing these people in the zombie apocalypse, and this is not like Night, where like it seemed like it just started, the zombies rising. And Dawn, it's not like, because Dawn feels like it's a little further into the zombie apocalypse. Day of the Dead, it feels like hope is lost, like, for the most part. Pretty much completely. Like, it is a dark film compared to especially Dawn. Like, Dawn is almost like a lighthearted, almost comedic in a decent amount of ways for me. And for others that I've talked to also. Maybe that's one reason that it doesn't top Day for me, but I don't know. But this is a dark movie compared to Night and Dawn. And I love it for that too. And we have Tom Savini back again here on this list. Just like with the last one with Friday 4, getting the kill off his creation of Jason. But his work in Day of the Dead, I think, is his magnum opus. I think it is the greatest effects work that Tom Savini's ever done. And I've heard people agree, but I've heard people also dispute that by saying, yeah, well, but he did have a lot of help on this one. With, like, the other, like, Maniac and Prowler and Friday the 13th was just really him and a guy or two. Yeah, you see how many fucking zombies with makeup on are in Day of the Dead? In the ending and stuff? You see all those practical effects? Of course he needed more people, man. I mean, and this is after Dawn of the Dead, and he had Greg Nicotero and Rob Kurtzman and Berger working under him. They did the same thing here. He needed K&B to help, and whoever else helped, because look at the goddamn effects work, man. All the makeup on the zombies alone, and like in the beginning of the film, like the effects we see of like the zombie on the medical bed turning and his guts falling out, and the zombie missing his face is just a brain, and like all of those effects, plus and all the makeup on the zombies. That's a shit ton of work just there. And then just the last 20 minutes of this film, that is just a smorgasbord of some of the greatest practical effects ever put to film. Like Torres's kill with his head rip off with the vocal cords stretching and amazing. Like that tiny detail of his pitch of his voice changing while his head's being ripped off because of the larynx is stretching. What a great detail. What a great little thing to throw into that kill to make it so much scarier and so much more disturbing. And then Rickles' death and Steele killing himself, all of that. And then just Rhodes is just, his kill, man, is just amazing. some of the best effects work in a movie. Like I said, my second favorite zombie film and my favorite traditional zombie movie, like Romero-esque zombie. Just perfection in every way. So 3, Dawn of the Dead. 2, Evil Dead 2 from 1987. Wow. I always kind of go back and forth between Evil Dead 1 and 2. If I'm in the mood for more serious horror, I tend to prefer Evil Dead. If I'm in the mood for just anything or just wanting to see Evil Dead anything, Evil Dead 2. Like, it's probably definitely in my top 10 of all time horror films. Like, for sure. And what can you say about it? Like, I did the whole Evil Dead franchise early on in the channel. So if you want to hear my thoughts on all 3 films and the remake, go check that playlist out. Because that was like the first like major franchise that I tackled on the channel. And it was a lot of fun talking about Evil Dead like crazy. So those were fun videos. But everything in this movie is fantastic. Just perfection, again. Just Raimi, everything that he does, I adore. Like, what a phenomenal director. The camera work that he pioneered, basically, in the first Evil Dead, and through all his work with the spirit or the deadite essence, whatever, going through the woods and stuff. Like, such inventive camera work, and just the makeup effects and the effects in general in this movie, and just Bruce Campbell, everything about him. Like, not even just his performance, just him as a human being. Everything about this movie is fantastic. And I absolutely adore it. So, I mean, I don't know who hasn't seen Evil Dead 2 at this point, but number 2 on the list, Evil Dead 2. And number 1, which should not be a surprise to fucking anybody who watches my channel and knows me at all, is John Carpenter's The Thing. It's my favorite film of all time, which I've said many times. Like, many. My favorite film of all time. Like, there's no film that I love more than John Carpenter's The Thing. I saw it at 12, 13 years old, and it's been sealed ever since then. Like, it's been closed for debate ever since I first saw this movie. Because everything about it's perfect. Every single thing. If you badmouth this movie in front of me, you're getting knocked the fuck out of it. No, but everything is perfect. The directing, the camera work, every shot, every frame of this movie, the sound design is phenomenal. Ennio Morricone's score is perfect for this movie. Keith David, he's fantastic. Kurt Russell, and the whole cast, everyone, every character is perfect. Then Rob Bottin's special effects. The greatest effects work ever put to film. And I will always stand by and defend that statement. Always. The best practical effects work in a film by Rob Bottin. And it blows my mind that he was only 22 years old when he did all this. That's insane. Like, that's really insane to me. And he had to get treated for exhaustion, like, multiple times. Because he was working like 12 hours or longer a day, every day, for the entire filming of this movie. And it shows, man. Just the dog sequence, when the dog's taking over the other dogs, the Thing is taking over. Absolute brilliance with the effects work. And my favorite scene of all time in a movie is the defibrillator scene with the spider head and all of that. My favorite scene in a movie ever. So of course this is going to be number 1 on the 80s list of horror movies, because it was going to be number 1 on any list for anything. Like, movie related, best movie of anything. So, number 1, John Carpenter's The Thing. And I just realized I shut down my little list before I did my little recap. What the hell is a list without a recap at the end, right, guys? You know what I'm talking about. Let's get this little recap out of the way, because I got an idea for something else coming up before our little watch party a little later at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tonight of Rocky Soroya's The Doll 2 Indonesian horror film. So if you guys want to come and join me and a bunch of great people, it's on Netflix. You can watch along while we talk and discuss it. So let's go down the list one more time. Honorable mentions: Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Pieces, Cannibal Holocaust, Society, and Child's Play. So number 10, A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Number 9, Creepshow from 1982. Number 8, Tenebrae, Dario Argento. Number 7, Stuart Gordon's Reanimator. Number 6, Dario Argento's Opera. Number 5, Lucio Fulci's The Beyond. Friday the 13th Part 4 from 84 at number 4. Number 3, Romero's Day of the Dead. Number 2, Evil Dead 2. And number 1, John Carpenter's The Thing. It's my best 10 horror films of the 80s. And so at least now I'll have this little companion solo video to tie in with the stream that me, Mike, and Dave did. So we are actually, next Sunday, we are going to be counting down our list of our top 10 horror films from 2000 to 2009 of the nuts. So if you guys are interested in hearing those lists from the three of us, it's always such a riot, like our streams, me, Mike, and Dave, like always, every Sunday. So this will be no exception. It'll be a great list, and yeah, I said this won't be as long as the 90s. I got to stop saying that. Like, I just got to stop saying the words, this won't be too long, and wipe that whole phrase from my vocabulary, because every time I say it, the video's longer. So I should just say this is going to be fucking short, but that don't work either, because then it just turns the tables and twists itself, and it turns out being long too. So I just got to say nothing and then just let it happen and see how long. But longer than the 90s video, and I already talked about this list on that stream. But all right, guys, I have one more list coming up, and I'm gonna keep it a surprise. So wherever you guys are from, hope you're enjoying your day, night, wherever it is, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care, guys.